Well, hey, well, big welcome back to the channel. Well, since building the truck, we've had more questions pop up about the bike rack and spare wheel carrier. So yep, as the thumbnail would suggest, we're going to cover it. So if you followed our travels, you know that on our previous truck, we used to carry a scooter. Now, this time around, we wanted a slightly bigger bike, and the bike is just over 200 kilograms. So how do you carry it? As well as that, with every Overlander, you're going to carry at least one or maybe two spare wheels. Some people put them between the cab and the body. For us, that wasn't workable. So hence you can see, we've actually fitted it just under the actual platform itself. The brief from the outset was to have something that was very robust. So the bike is just over 200 kilograms, the spare wheel is 178 kilograms, and the rack is approximately 110 kilograms. So you could do the maths. There's a fairly substantial amount of weight hanging off the rear end of the truck. Now, one of the things you've got to pay attention to, I suppose, if you're building a rack, is whether or not you've got the capacity on the rear axle. We've got an 18-ton truck, and therefore we're absolutely fine. I'm more than content that we've got the capacity to carry what's on there. So just walking around the rack, I just want to point out a couple of the key features. In fairness, it's a pretty crude design. What we basically did was took an old tail lift off a truck, and you can sort of see up here, basically you've got two rails, and they were actually chopped off an old tail lift. The rest has been fabricated and modified for this specific vehicle. So in effect what you have is almost two box sections with a slit in them, with a rail actually sliding up and down within the actual box section itself. Now within that, to make it a bit smoother and a bit, operate a bit better, there's a number of rollers, stainless steel rollers on ball bearings, and nylon pads as well. So to enable those to move up and down, what we have is a 2,000 kilogram winch from Warrior Winches. Now, although I've got a wireless remote control, I've also got the ability to sort of plug in as well with a handhold and a cable. And actually you can see closer here, we've got the start, the uppermost sort of fixed point, if you like, of that rail within the box section. The whole lift itself actually sits on the chassis members. As you can see here, you've got a number of bolts which actually bolted into the chassis members, and it actually sits on the end of the chassis rails as well. And then we've got a couple of bits of angle, pretty substantial, just to help sort of brace that as well. And in addition, we've got the whole sort of rear bumper assembly actually as part of that sort of complete unit, if you like. There's a couple of locking levers here because we can raise the bumper for off-road driving. And just up here, you can actually see that we've got a couple of locking pins, effectively, which basically, when closed, they actually go through that box section itself to stop that, effectively, that tail lift of that platform from coming down and obviously hitting the road. Now, it did take a huge amount of time trying to get this right. I actually wanted the spare wheel initially up against the rack itself, and then the bike beyond that. But in the end, it was going to basically hang out too far, further than I wanted. Yes, I could have done it from a legal point of view, but actually I didn't want all that weight sort of hanging off the rear axle in that form. And so we've ended up with this configuration. Now you'll notice we've got a huge amount of fixing points on here. I've sort of overdone it really on the fixing points, because in my experience you can never have too many. And so it's a series of basically just sort of welded loops and then little eyelets that are some way adjustable. And what I've got is actually 6 straps securing this bike. I've got 2 main straps at the front, and they obviously help whilst the bike is actually sat in the cradle in the front wheel. And as well as that, I've got another 2 ratchet straps actually in the middle as well, so pulling out the side, and then 2 at the rear as well. So when the bike is on there, it's absolutely solid. Now it is completely sort of standalone on the rack, so you haven't got like an arm coming over the seat and then with a mechanical fix. It is literally just the straps holding this bike on. Well, I've just come around the corner because the wind has got up, but actually in terms of the operational side of things, it's pretty straightforward. All I've got to do is turn on the isolation switch. I've mentioned already, it's a 24 volt 2000 kilogram winch, which actually operates the vehicle battery. So although I can drop it quite easily without starting the engine, good practice, I tend to sort of run up the engine and literally get my little wireless remote control and push down. So just before I actually lower the rack, what I do is take my little remote control, I just raise it slightly, release the pins, and then drop it. Now, as you can see, the spare wheel actually rests on the ground, which leaves the platform quite high. So I've got my little rack here, which basically just unclips and then acts as a little ramp to just offload the bike. So just at the top of the rack itself, there's actually two little locating lugs, and they actually go through two holes in the platform, and that stops it from moving, particularly whenever you're putting the bike on under power. It stops it from the rear wheel from sort of spinning this ramp away. Then all that's left to do is to undo the straps and basically just wheel it off the ramp. So you get a better look at the rack itself now, and I asked the fabricator to actually strengthen the base of the rails onto the platform. I know it's overkill, it's just the way I am. I like things to be over-engineered, and I think that's exactly what I've done here. But it gives me peace of mind that, you know, I've got quite a big load on the back, I'm bouncing about, and the last thing you want is this lot to drop off in the middle of the desert. So another little feature is the ancillary rack at the top. Now, it's basically just a plate with a series of holes, but what it does, it allows me to affix my various bits and pieces, such as the ramp, the shovel, the sand ladders, anything else I might want to bolt on there in the future. In terms of the spare wheel, there's basically 4 big bolts that basically go through the platform, through the steel structural element of the platform, into a cradle under the wheel, and basically that just sort of holds that up. And as much as, you know, I'm not big into wheel changing, I've done my share in the last truck, and if you follow our travels, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I've had my, you know, between blowouts and flat tires. So hopefully, you know, I fitted the wheels on this truck, brand new tires, brand new wheels, and hopefully we won't have any dramas. But, you know, if we do, then clearly we've got the means to be able to sort of change it. So we have actually put a set of LED lights on here as well. You can see them, they're pretty sort of discreet. They work really well, they're actually really bright, and there's a cable just behind me that obviously needs to be flexible for when that goes up and down. So to get the bike back on, it's just a complete reversal really, but the only difference is I've got to start the bike up, otherwise it's a 2-man push. So I start the bike up, I put it into first gear, and I really just sort of roll it into the cradle at the front, get the straps on, and that's it. So basically that is it. I've just been faffing about with the straps. So there's 6 straps and it's pretty solid. I mean, if I give the bars a good yank, you can see this thing is, you know, there's very, very little movement on this. And the straps at the front, they're 1-ton straps. So 2 1-ton straps, 2 600-kilogram straps in the middle, and then 2 300-kilogram straps at the rear. So again, it is overkill. But you know, when you're driving along, I've actually got the camera up there as well, and you can see when you're driving off-road, you can actually see the bike moves ever so slightly, I'm fine with that. Clearly the suspension is sort of, you know, this, even though you pulled it down with the straps, there's still a little bit of give there, and there's just a tiny amount of movement when you're driving off-road. But otherwise, in terms of road handling, road behavior, it's solid. And it really is as simple as that. Now, I can actually get the bike off in about 2 minutes 45 seconds. In fairness, it takes about 10 minutes to get it back on, get it strapped up, and get it to a point where it's safe and secure before I hit the open road. Now, I've been asked by over 20 people for a design or a blueprint for this particular rack, and I'm afraid I haven't got one. If I had one, then I would give it out, of course I would. But it really was as crude as, you know, having the bike, having the truck, and really and truly sort of making it up as we went along. I wanted to try and keep it as mechanical as possible, so that if I am somewhere and there's an issue, then I can get it fixed. Would it change anything? Yeah, potentially. Think about a hydraulic lift, maybe even put on an even heavier duty winch. This is 2,000 kilograms. It's lifting about 500 kilograms. So you think that would be enough, but actually that 2,000 kilogram pull is the maximum, and that's when it starts. So it's fine at the moment. It's something I might change in the future. We'll see. But guys, listen, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel as always. And if you've got any questions, then please leave us a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time round. Bye for now.